With some wood beads, stamps, greenery, and even a burlap bunny, I think you're going to absolutely love the transformation of this thrift store find. Hi there, I'm Jane from Sustain My Craft Habit. Welcome back to our channel. This wood box came from the Value Village recently. I imagine it's a container for some sort of planter. And as soon as I saw it, I thought it would make a really cute centerpiece for spring. So I got to work. First by adding a little bit of embellishment with some wood beads. Adding wood beads is such a great way to give a farmhouse touch to really any craft, and I think it's my new obsession these days, even though this method's been around for a while. You could definitely glue these one by one around the edge, but I found stringing them together on a piece of really fine wire helped to kind of secure them. It also made it much easier to ensure that they were straight. So I just worked in little sections, strung them onto that wire, and then glued that to the edge of my wooden box with my hot glue. Next, I decided to add some feet to the bottom of my box. This not only helps to raise up the entire centerpiece, but actually makes it look a lot richer and more expensive. I simply used wood beads for this. If you have just one size of wood bead, you can use a nice big one and glue that on four corners of the box. And you can see my $3.99 price tag from the Value Village on this box. But I decided that I wanted a little bit more height, so I turned that puppy back over and continued to add smaller and smaller wood beads. You can see here I just stacked that on there, and if you use the ends where the hole is, that has a little bit of a flatter kind of surface versus the side of the bead, and also then you won't see the hole of the bead if you stack it in this way, one on top of the other. So I used a larger size bead. I think it was, the first one was about 18 millimeters. The second one was about a 10 millimeter size bead, and this third smaller one was, I think, about a 6 millimeter size bead. I bought a whole package of various sizes from Amazon, and I'll be sure to link that down in the description below. Those feet turned out so cute. So next I used a bit of white chalky finish paint just to dry brush all around my container, including the wood bead rim, the box itself, which had this kind of wood grain texture or finish, and I didn't want to cover that completely. I just wanted to tone down so that it wasn't so dark in some of those areas. So this is where the dry brushing technique works really well. You offload the paint from your paintbrush onto another surface. I'm using my working surface, and then just use that little bit of paint that's left on the brush to go over the areas that you want to dry brush. And you can see how that just adds a really nice light finish to the entire surface and gives it a more cohesive kind of coloring. I used my heat tool just to dry that surface before moving on to the next step. Now this part was super fun because I hadn't used these stamps in about 20 years. These I think I got from my friend Debbie, who used to sell Stampin' Up products, and this was in my days before I had kids and before these all got put away. I used to make cards and do scrapbooking, and then kind of, that fell to the side, but I did have a big bin of these beautiful stamps, but I used those designs to add some subtle embellishments to the side of the container. Next, I glued some of a floral foam block into the inside of the container and then added in this faux greenery. I think this was from the Dollarama. It's just boxwood twigs, and you could use any type of greenery. Even eucalyptus would look really pretty in there, but that was really just to fill it in. And honestly, you could leave the arrangement here as it is for a year-round piece of farmhouse decor that you could place in your home. But I wanted to add a few embellishments for Easter or springtime coming up. So I pulled out some of this burlap fabric. I don't even know where it came from, but it's just basically a tightly woven burlap that I then traced on this bunny shape with a Sharpie marker. I cut that out onto 2 layers of the burlap fabric and just ironed that out. Next, I used my hot glue gun and glued both a wooden skewer into the center because we're going to kind of push this into the foam block. I then placed a bead of hot glue along one side of the burlap bunny and cut up strips more of burlap to use as filler to just stuff inside and give it a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. Then I simply again use the hot glue gun to close off the other side of the bunny. Created this really beautiful rustic shape, reminding me very much of kind of a primitive bunny, something that kids from days gone by might have played with. Well, I don't know. I guess they wouldn't have had a hot glue gun to create their bunny, but they would have sewn her shut. I had a little bit of a funny shape here at the side, so I used my scissors to cut and make it look exactly how I wanted it to look, so a bit more of a bunny shape. If you don't feel confident in free-forming the shape of the bunny, we do have a printable template over at sustainmycrafthabit.com, which I'll be sure to link below. Because my burlap wasn't in the greatest shape, I decided to dry brush it in the same way that I dry brushed the container. So I just took a bit of my white chalky paint and lightly went over both the front and back of the burlap fabric, which looked really nice then. It kind of tied it all together. Next, I tied on this cute ribbon around the neck of the bunny for a little bit of a bow tie, and then added a few details such as touches of pink in the ears and on the cheek. Now that my bunny was done, I tucked her right into the center of that arrangement. I added in some of these really cute paper daffodils that I had made with the Cricut Maker, and we have the tutorial for that in another video. Now, what kind of arrangement would we have without some carrots for our bunny? So I again used those wood beads in different sizes and stacked a few of them from the largest size that I had, 2 or 3, to the smallest size, and this helped to make these carrot type shapes. I similarly strung those onto the fine wire that I used at the beginning of the craft, which made it really simple to just kind of tie up and close off the beads so that they wouldn't fall off. Once my carrot was done, I again brushed it with some orange paint. I think this is an acrylic paint, and I'll be sure to put the color below. But after that was dry, I tucked some greenery into that top hole for the greenery of the carrot. I tried to use a different greenery than what was in the actual planter so that there would be a bit of a contrast. And there you go. We crafted a beautiful centerpiece for spring or Easter, starting with a thrift store find and adding a few simple supplies, most of which you could find at the dollar store. Which was your favorite piece, the planter, the bunny, or the carrot? I think the planter is mine. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting!